From the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida, the home of News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. This is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now.
The Buccaneers are back in the playoffs, beginning their championship quest against the same opponent they opened the season against. It'll be Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders coming into Tampa Bay on Wild Card Weekend. We are live on Bucs Bonus with everything you need to know. And oh yeah, that's right, folks. He's in the house. Super Bowl champion, Bucs Ring of Honor member, and NFL Hall of Famer. Can we give it up, everybody? Rondé Barber.
Am I allowed to applaud
house
for myself? I'll applaud for myself.
Man, you can applaud for yourself. When you're a Bucs legend, you do whatever you want to do, man.
Well, I thank you for having me in here, JB. This place, by the way, I know a lot of people don't get to come in here. This is a fantastic space. This Stream Center is what it's about. So I'm glad to be in here.
The Stream Center is honored by your presence. Rondé Barber is here, everybody. And guess what? For the next 30, 40 minutes, we're talking Buccaneers football. And let me tell you, there's a lot to talk about with the Bucs because the Bucs are NFC South champions. They are in the NFL playoffs. Everything is set. Let's go through the rundown of games of what we have because, man, between college football and the pros, we have some awesome football over the next several days, including actually right now with college football. But it all kicks off tomorrow with the NFL, with the Chargers and Texans at 4:30. Then, of course, we go into the Steelers-Ravens at 8 o'clock, the Broncos and the Bills at 1 on Sunday, the Packers and the Eagles, what a matchup, 4:30 in the NFC, in the game, of course, before Sunday Night Football on WFLA News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. The Washington Commanders come into town, hosted by, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Rondé, I'm pumped, man.
How can you not be?
You excited?
How can you not be? I mean, for Bucs fans, anyway, you get a chance to revisit what was ultimately the Commanders' worst loss of the year, right? 37-20, I think it was 21 that game was, but it wasn't even that close. So from a perspective of Tampa, Washington is the team we wanted to play. I mean, I looked at you just ran through that rundown of the playoff teams. This is a game we have to win because this is a game that's probably the most favorable opponent as we go forth. Because the rest of the NFC's got just a lot of talent, both sides of the ball. When you start talking about Detroit, obviously, who is the number 1 seed, he has the bye. Minnesota easily could have been that. They lost last week. And then Philadelphia, who we know very, very well, are all formidable. And those are all teams that we would have to go on the road to play. So this is an ideal matchup for me for Tampa. And for some reason, JB, it seems like whenever we get into a wild card weekend, why are we playing the Washington Redskins so many times?
Yeah,
when they make the playoffs, we play them.
It's very interesting that that it turns out that way. It's interesting because my first question on my sheet to ask you was, is there a more favorable matchup in the NFC for the wild card round than the Commanders? And you're saying that the answer is no. You really like how the Bucs and the Commanders match up X's and O's. Is it because you're going up against a rookie quarterback, or is it more than that?
Well, it's both. But that's a great question. So Jayden Daniels, right? He set the league on fire this year. You know, rookie record for rushing yardage, passing yardage. He had, I think he had 31 total touchdowns, 25 through the air, six rushing as well. He is their leading rusher on the Commanders' offense. So when you start looking at what the Bucs are going to have to do to win this football game, it's literally stop one guy. So when you talk about favorable matchups, it's that. Because if you can take away his prowess, I guess, if you keep him in the pocket, don't let him scramble. I was looking at some stats the other day. Of those 800 and however many yards he had rushing, more than half of them were scrambles. They weren't even designed runs. Now, Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, has a ton of RPO, right, and read option in their offense to get him designed runs. But most of it is him dropping back, not finding what he wants, and then just being a better athlete than everybody else on the field. If you remember week 1 of the Bucs, he scored 2 touchdowns, and I think he had 70 yards rushing, right? And all of that was on drop back passing. So I think the Bucs, getting ready for this game, they know they have one person to stop. Yes, they have some good players on the offense. Terry McLaurin's a great player. Zach Ertz is having a pretty good year for being a kind of an aged veteran. But the reality is, you stop one guy and you win this football game.
That's Jayden Daniels,
That's Jayden Daniels,
of course. Now, you need someone to stock Jayden Daniels, right? And that's why, man, Buccaneers fans, myself included, man, let me tell you, really excited about the prospect of Antoine Winfield Jr. being back. It feels like forever since we've seen Antoine Winfield Jr. On the field. But let's just get to the general injury report. And as we do, we'll start here with Winfield. Mm-hmm. The growing expectation is that he is going to suit up. That's your expectation, obviously, for Sunday. That he's going to play. But what version of Antoine Winfield Jr. do you expect? This is in your wheelhouse, obviously, of a question, because you've come back from injury before to play. How hampered and how much of a – I mean, are we going to see him right out of the gate being the Antoine Winfield Jr. that we know, or are we going to – is he going to have to ease back into it over the course of the game?
That's an excellent question. Because personally, I know what he did. He had a mild sprain of his MCL, which is the ligament on the inside of your knee. And it was crazy how it happened. He was running to a play, and I think his own teammate actually landed on his knee. And I thought actually that he was going to be able to play sooner. But apparently he just couldn't get right with it, right? It just didn't feel right, and he wanted to take his time. And through that time, give the Bucs credit. They won 6 of 7 of their last games. 4 of those he missed. And they were definitely hampered in the defensive backfield by not having him. Now, last year, before he signed his big contract, this was the best safety in football. There is, I think, unquestioned. You could say that there's some other guys that are in the conversation. This year, you have the guy in Detroit, I'm blanking on his name, Kirby Joseph, who led the league in interceptions. McKenzie from Green Bay led, second in the league in interceptions from safety position. Those guys had phenomenal years. But in terms of impact, there was not a more impactful player, you could argue, in the NFL last year than Antoine Winfield Jr. So when you take that out of the equation, when he's not available for you on defense, you have to change everything. So some of the struggles, and we haven't really talked about this yet, but we will. Some of the struggles that the Bucs defense has had over this course of this year, especially in the back end, is because they haven't had this player, because of what he does in Todd Bowles' defense. So him being back, and he will play. I mean, he walked out to practice the other day. I saw him at practice 2 days ago, going through full reps. He's ready to play, and I think he knows, this possibly being the last game of the year. If you don't win this game, you play. There's a lot of guys on this list, on this injury list, that, hey, man, all hands on deck, right? There's no reason not to play.
If you had a chance to inject Todd Bowles with truth serum and he had to give you the honest answer, who is the X factor for the Bucs on defense? Who is the biggest game wrecker? Is it up front like a Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, or is it this man in the back in the secondary with Antoine Winfield?
I would say if he's truly is back to 100% or even close to 100%. You don't have to be 100% to play, right? But if he's back to that level, it's Antoine Winfield. Now, over the course of the last 2 months, the 2 best players on defense have been 50 and 94. Kalijah Kancey led our team in sacks, 7.5. Vita Vea, his right next to him, his running mate, had 7 sacks, which is a career high for him. And then you look at the other interior defensive lineman, Logan Hall. He had 5.5 sacks this year as a career year. So the collective strength, for sure, is the interior defensive line. Yaya Diaby and Anthony Nelson and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka on the edges were good players, but they were not the strength of this defense. It was inside. But this week, I think it's going to have to be Antoine. You need guys to be able to make open field tackles against this quarterback. They have a good running back in Brian Robinson Jr. as well. That he is going to be crucial to this. And instead, with Antoine being out, we've had to play a lot of young guys. Kayvon Merriweather, Christian Izien, before he got hurt and went on IR, it was a nickel that was playing safety. Obviously, we lost Jordan Whitehead because he got in that car accident a couple of weeks ago, so we don't have him as well. So this is probably the biggest X factor on this Bucs defense, and I'm hoping that his return sees an increase in the production from that overall unit.
Hoping a couple of names Rondé mentioned, hoping for a speedy recovery for Jordan Whitehead. Really just terrible to hear that news. And then also as well. Yaya Diaby, shout out, NFC Player of the Week for the first time. It's been the applause button for Yaya.
Yeah.
Man, it's been really cool to see his maturation as a defensive player in Todd Bowles' schemes. Let's mention some of the other names on the injury report. Jamel Dean, Mike Edwards listed here, Logan Hall as well, Cade Otton. What are some of the names? What are some of the things? Look, you're our Bucs insider in addition to being our Hall of Famer, man. So what is your expectation for players and how they're going to be ready to go on Sunday night?
I'm glad you mentioned some of those because Jamel Dean, huge return if Jamel Dean comes back. And I don't think he's had what you would call a fantastic year. He's only got one interception on the year, Jamel Dean, but he is much better player than the guys that have had to play instead of him. Funderburk and Josh Hayes have been out there. And while they're young players and they still got a lot of growing curve, in the playoff game, you want your best corner out there, and that will be Jamel Dean. Cade Otton, you mentioned him. He was having such a big year, a huge year. When Mike Evans went down in week whatever that was, I can't remember what week Mike Evans got hurt where he missed those 3 weeks. Cade Otton became one of the best tight ends in football. I mean, he was getting like 10, 12 targets a game, but his production kind of showcased what kind of talent he is at tight end. And Baker Mayfield obviously had a lot of faith in him. So him coming back will be huge as well. And I know you said Logan Hall. Logan Hall has been such a solid player. I wouldn't expect him to miss a game. And even if he does, you still have some depth at defensive lineman there. Will is still here, and he can play a lot of snaps on that defensive front if Logan Hall is out. But injuries are always a concern this time of year. But like we just said, you have to play. You have to play.
I can almost feel from the stream center Todd Bowles, the big smile on his face. I'm sure the smile on Todd Bowles' face is probably reminiscent of a Rondé Barber ear-to-ear grin tonight, because he's thinking, after a bit of a rough year with some injuries, I might be able to unleash the real power of this entire defense come Sunday night against a rookie quarterback and a chance to go to the divisional round. We'll get more into the Bucs' chances and how they match up with the X's and O's. Let's get into our game preview here on Bucs Bonus with, again, Rondé Barber joining us here in the Stream Center. I'm JB Buno. It is the Washington Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It'll be at Raymond James Stadium. Rondé's key storylines. Let's start off with Cliff Kingsbury's offense against the Todd Bowles defense. Man, let me tell you something. You're going to be a little bit on the edge of your seat when it's the offense against the defense for the Bucs, right?
I'm looking at this matchup right now, and I'm like, I wish I was game planning for this. I wish I was in a meeting room right now game planning for Cliff Kingsbury.
You got your key card still works, right? Can you swipe your way in there and go hang out?
The only problem is, JB, I don't think I can backpedal or turn and run anymore. Those years are done. I'm turning 50 in April. I can't do it anymore.
Man.
But looking at this Cliff Kingsbury offense, and first of all, you got to give a shout out to the Washington Commanders. This was a 4-win team last year. They not only were bad, they were like really bad. They hired Dan Quinn. They go get Adam Peters to be their GM. Obviously, they draft Jayden Daniels with the first pick. They actually drafted 2 other players that ended up being starters for the regular starters for this Commanders for this Commanders team as well. And so that improvement, the 8-game improvement, man, that is unreal for a team. But the crux of their success has been on offense. So you talk Cliff Kingsbury, and I was shocked when I was doing some research for this game, looking at their balance, because people say the Washington offense is really balanced. Do you know how balanced they are, JB? 526 runs, 525 passes.
That's wild.
Which makes them,
that 50-50 split.
Right, which makes them, I think, one of only 2-3 teams in the NFL that actually ran the ball more than they passed the ball. And you have a really dynamic quarterback. Obviously, Jayden Daniels makes that happen, right? Because so many of his dropbacks end up being runs. You're able to design those runs for the quarterback, and so it's skewed that way. So Todd Bowles, you're probably going to have to be your best game plan of the year so far, because you have that dynamic. We haven't really – trying to think, if we played a quarterback this year that we'll pull up that schedule. You got the schedule.
Yeah, let's pull up the schedule. Let's pull it up.
Have we played a quarterback that has that kind of dynamism running a football.
Well, you did have Lamar Jackson.
Well, Lamar,
in
there
October,
you go.
which I mean, right. I mean, again, MVP contender, but I mean, no, I mean, it's probably Lamar.
Right.
Maybe
Bo Nix a little bit. Bo Nix could get out of the pocket. I actually missed that. I didn't watch that September 22nd game. I was so mad when they lost that game. But yeah, this is a guy, Jayden Daniels, probably. He's presumptive, right? Everybody can say it at this point. He's going to be the rookie of the year just because of what he's done, even though give some shout outs to Brock Bowers and even Malik Neighbors and Bucky. Bucky had a great year. He's all rookie. He's going to be all rookie team. But Jayden Daniels is the rookie of the year. He was the best player in this year's draft, and he showed it. So I think Todd Bowles has to come up with something very, very unique to deal with this guy. And I said it kind of earlier. I was on your show downstairs. The best way to rush a quarterback that has this kind of mobility is to rush him slow. You don't want to get there fast because
then they'll just scramble and take off for 20 yards.
The faster you get there, the quicker he moves. He's out of the pocket. You want him to sit there and think that he has time to find his receivers downfield. And next thing you know, Vita Vea is single-armed whipping an offensive guard or a center, and it's a sack. That's what this game's going to come down to, finding ways to keep the edges of the rush lanes intact. Because if he gets outside that pocket, man, it is Katie bar the door.
I don't know if you play chess. It reminds me of chess.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
As they teach you in chess, you don't just go for the king outright. You are building a strategy around them to slowly go in and surround and eliminate moves out of the gate. It'll be really interesting in comparison to the, I'll tell you this, Rondé. I attended one Bucs game this year. Me being a relatively, new dad, at home a lot this year. Only got to go to one Bucs game.
Are you busy or something?
Yeah, busy, right? Yeah, with a little 1-year-old at home.
Right. Mine are 21 and 22.
Yeah, so it's a little
easier.
A little bit easier for you right now than it is for me. But I will tell you, the one game I went to, I was there in the stands for the Commanders in the season opener. And just a couple of things that I will share with you. I like to listen to the crowd, to the chatter around me during a game. One thing that I'll pass along for the Bucs and one thing for the Commanders. For the Bucs, it became very evident to fans early on that Bucky Irving was the real deal. People were losing their minds over how good Bucky was on day one. Right. The other thing was I had this guy behind me. He was clearly, I think, 2 or 3 beers in. And he turns to his buddy and he goes, "Hey, this Washington quarterback, wait, are you sure he's a rookie?" Because by no means did Jayden Daniels look like a rookie out there. Even in his first game. We've seen some growing pains with Caleb Williams as an example. We've seen some growing pains, even with Drake May, who looks very good for New England.
Growing pains with Bo Nix. He was terrible at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. He grew over this as the season went on in Sean Payton's offense. Now all of us, but I'll tell you, even from that first game at Raymond James Stadium, it was even evidence to the guy behind me who was tipsy on Budweiser that Jayden Daniels had the savvy of an NFL quarterback. And so that brings me to my question. How different of a Commanders team is this in the week 1 of the postseason versus week 1 of the regular season?
Totally different. And you're probably you'll agree with this because if you just have to look at the stats to notice this. Jayden Daniels was great all along. And a quick note on that. Jayden Daniels played 5 years of college football. He 4 years at Arizona State, and he transferred to LSU. He won the Heisman for a reason. The guy's got a lot of football under his belt. Like, he wasn't like a late bloomer. He's seen a lot of football. So that poise and that calm that you see from him, like, that makes him look like a veteran player in week 1, that's ingrained. And if you talk to some people, like, he was like that in high school. So, like, okay, we understand what he is. But the biggest difference, JB, between this team and the one we saw week 1 is defense. Okay. So they were, I think, at one point, maybe 30th in the league in total defense. And then they made some moves. They actually released a first-round draft pick at corner, Emmanuel Forbes. They traded for Marshawn Lattimore, who we're going to talk about later. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to not talk about Marshawn and Mike Evans.
We're getting to Mike Evans.
We're going to talk about that. But they went from being one of the worst defenses in the league to a top, I think, 6 pass defense in the NFL. Now, where their weakness is up front. because they missed Jonathan Allen, and we'll talk about Graham Barton here in a minute. But Jonathan Allen has missed most of the season. He just came back, so him sitting next to Daron Payne makes them feel like a better run defense than they have been all year. I think they're ranked 30th in run defense.
I'll check that.
So in terms of how the Bucs deal with this defense that has gotten better this year, go back to the first point you made on day one of your Washington Bucs excursion. Bucky Irvin.
Mm-hmm. Bucky
Irvin has really exploded in this offense for one reason, really. We got a new offensive line coach, Carsberry, and you got these young guys on the offensive line. You bring in Bretterson to be left guard. You bring in Graham Barton to be your center. They got really athletic all of a sudden. And so with that athleticism, you went from being, people look at me, you went from being this duo run team where you get two big guys and you just push on a body to a team that uses pullers and gap schemes and all this misdirection up front, whams, whatever you call it. And I love Rashad White. He's not a great gap scheme runner. He is a better zone blocking runner. This team has really evolved into a gap scheme run team, and Bucky Irvin is perfect for it because of his ability to make one guy miss, break a tackle, and then that shiftiness just showcases itself. And what looks like is going to be a 2 or 3 yard loss ends up being a 5 or 6 yard gain. Right? The kid is special, and I think if people that watched him in Oregon in college, they understand that this guy did this in college as well. You know, the one thing that he doesn't have is breakaway speed. That's why he doesn't have those big, long touchdown runs. But in terms of production, I mean, there was no more productive running back in football in terms of their rookie year. And in fact, JB, I have a stat for you that I found earlier today.
I mean, I thought that was I thought I was the one supposed to bring the stats. But no, hit me with the stats.
See if you know this one now. His 5.4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Let me see if I have that on my cheat sheet.
I don't think I do. In the recesses of my mind.
I don't think I
have it in the recess because it shocked me. Shocked me.
Yep.
His 5.4 yards per carry is in his rookie year are the third best of all time. Do you know who number one is?
Oh man. Well, I got to think of greats, right? Number one.
Mm-hmm.
First mind, Barry Sanders.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Adrian Peterson.
Okay. Number one.
Yep.
Number two, ironically, played for the Washington team before it was the Commanders. Clinton Portis.
Oh wow.
So he's third all times in yards per carry as a rookie.
That's unbelievable.
So I mean, think about it. At the beginning of the year, he was largely splitting carries with Rashad White. He wasn't getting that many opportunities. And I said this downstairs as well. First time we've had 1,000-yard back since 2015. Bonus points for anybody who can tell me who that was. Garrett knows. Doug Martin. 1,500 yards. This is the first time since that year as well that we've rushed for over 2,000 yards, which I think we're at 2,400 yards or whatever rushing, which is amazing. Because for years, I mean, I have this down on my notes. For years, this was a team that you didn't even think about running average. You're like, oh, we're going to run the ball better this year. We're going to run. I mean, I do preseason games. They're going to run the ball better this year.
It's almost like this. It's this cliche at this point, right?
Cliche. Yeah. Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Liam Cohen goes, you know what? We're going to run the ball.
We are going to
run it down your throat.
Right.
And we're going to laugh as we do it. And that's what they've done with 3 effective running backs this season.
Absolutely.
Sean Tucker.
Can't dismiss Sean Tucker.
Absolutely. I think Sean Tucker would be an RB2 probably on most NFL teams, and could probably even threaten for RB1 on a team like the Cowboys.
Right.
I hate to throw it out there. I'm still a little sour about the Dallas loss, as you can probably tell. But I mean, Sean Tucker would be a really strong running back, I think, for a lot of teams. To go back to the Washington Commanders defense, they gave up the third most rushing yards in the league, but the 4th fewest passing yards in the league. So it's a very, very extreme difference between how they, defend against the pass versus the run. Clearly, based on the stats,
they've gotten better. There's a reason they won 12 games this year. I mean, obviously the NFC East with the Giants wasn't as good, but you still had to play Philly. Arizona was kind of average, middling team, but it's a 12-1 football team, man. Like, this is a great matchup, and if Tampa can find a way to win this thing at home against a team that's surging, surging. And I would say this again: the Commanders they score a lot of points, but they don't blow anybody out because of their defense, right? Their defense gives up a lot of points. Offense is, I think probably point. You can look this up. I think 0.3 or 4 points per game behind us. But that's why people think it's going to be a shootout. If you ask Vegas, it's going to be a shootout because both teams are in the 28 something around there for points per game. But Washington wins close games. That is what has separated them over the course of this year. The Commanders win close games. So their biggest loss this season, week 1 against Tampa. So if you're a Bucs fan, you want to start looking at that blueprint and see if we can recreate that. And remember, too, week 1, all this stuff just jumps in my head, JB. I can't shut up sometimes. But that was the healthiest the Bucs have been on defense all year long, that game. And so having these guys back, we talked about that injury report earlier, having some of those guys back on defense will certainly help our cause.
Buccaneers 3rd in the league with 29.5 points per game. The Washington Commanders 7th with 28.5 points per game, separated by literally a single point, folks. I mean, my goodness. Rondé mentioned, before we go on to our second storyline, and we're going to get to our second storyline in just a second, but Rondé mentioned, hey, friendly reminder, Washington has to come into Tampa, even though the records are different, obviously, as Rondé knows. I'm sure many of our audience members know. The Buccaneers winning the NFC South, winning their division, they get to play a game right here at Raymond James Stadium. Check out from Eagle 8 HD a short time ago, circling around the site of the wild card game on Sunday Night Football, which again you can watch on WFLA News Channel 8. Of course, our coverage will be that night. I believe our coverage begins at 8 o'clock. I think Football Night in America is right before that. And we have, of course, a special that's going to air on WFLA News Channel 8. As well, but yeah, I mean, first of all, how cool is it to see it lit up with red like this at night? It's like a flex, right?
I don't know if I've seen that red light.
Isn't that cool?
That is pretty cool, man.
It feels like yesterday. I remember the weekend performing at the halftime show, and so many fond memories with the cannons going off. But just talk to me real quick, Rondé, about how big of a difference it is playing this game in Tampa versus playing it in Washington.
Right. Playing it here makes a big difference. No further evidence needed than 2020 Super Bowl. We played the same wild card matchup. Redskins had the home field advantage. The Bucs with Tom Brady had to go to Washington, or I guess Landover, to play in the wild card round, and we almost lost to Tyler Heineke. Right? We all remember that game.
Yeah.
Like, what in the heck is going on here? Much better team in Tampa, but Washington gave us a run for our money. Raymond James Stadium, and obviously there's a lot of transient people down here. There's fans from everywhere. But once the playoffs come around, this stadium is an advantage, man. It's one of the best fields in the league, obviously. But that crew, that moniker right there, the home of the crew. The Bucs have done a great job emphasizing, this idea of us being a crew, and all their marketing is geared towards it. You got whoever the captain of the crew will be on the ship on Sunday night. I don't think they've announced that yet. I don't know who it was.
You got any insider knowledge on that?
No, they asked me. I'm not gonna lie. They asked me to do it, but I was like, I'm kind of working. I got stuff to do. I'd rather be in the suite, getting my nerves out, drinking a frosty beverage, adult beverage.
Why do I feel like they ask you every week?
They probably do. I'm not a hype guy, JB.
Oh man,
I was a hype guy. You know when I was a hype guy? I was a hype guy when I put the helmet on, strapped on the pads. I was a big trash talker and hype guy. Now I'm just kind of reserved and try to act intelligent so I can get on your show and have some fun. You know how we always, I told you we would go off on some tangents, you and I. There's Garrett Phillips, shout out our Bucs Bonus producer who's sitting over here to my right. We were talking earlier today about how awesome it was to see the clip of Mike Evans mic'd up. Oh, man. But that's a very modern thing. Yeah. If you were mic'd up during your playing career, would there be a lot of bleeping going on? Would they be able to show a lot of that on regular television? Now they're able to process that really quick, right? You can even get it out same day. So So I got mic'd up one time. I was playing my brother. It was probably 2000.
They did do it sparingly in your
Yes.
career, but it wasn't as common as it is now, where there's mics everywhere.
And you never got the audio. The audio came out like weeks later.
Right, NFL films and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's like right away. You know, the Bucs video department, or you know their social media department, they'll put out stuff
Before the fourth quarter.
right? Like
right.
just,
I mean, it's like, hey,
Mike
this is
Evans
what
Mike Evans just had his 1,000th or 75th catch or whatever, 1,000 yards again, and like 10 minutes later, they got audio of it
on the field, on their Facebook
awesome.
page or Instagram
it's
page.
Awesome. So I did get mic'd up one time, and I never saw the film air anywhere. And I was playing my brother. It never aired, but they sent me the raw tapes.
Okay.
Or I guess they were the cassette, whatever the hell the cassettes were, or whatever. Yeah, it was.
Did they mic up Tiki also?
They did, and it was bad. It was bad. I felt like a lesser man than I actually am, because I was so bad. It's like my mom should never hear that. Should never hear what I said that day.
Do you still have them?
Oh yeah, they're still somewhere.
Man.
I think
Maybe one day.
Actually, I don't think I have the capability of playing it back. I don't.
We got some archival equipment here. We can bring that stuff. We can bring that back.
I'll bring it
back.
You might get a little red in the face. Be like, I can't believe Rondé talks like this.
Let's go back to our key storylines, Rondé's key storylines. And you see it here, the second one on your screen. Let's talk, man, about what an incredibly pleasant surprise some of the rookies have been, and how integral they've been to the Bucs' success.
Yes.
The rookies stepping up for the Bucs offense, especially. We talked about Bucky Irving and how cool. I was there when the Bucky Irving, the Bucky chant started at Raymond James Stadium, even in week 1 against the Commanders. Some other names that have stood out to you. You mentioned Graham Barton. Who are the most impressive rookies from what you see on film?
Bucky, obviously, number one, right? He's just amazing. His ability to make people miss, his ability to do all the dynamic stuff that great running backs do. That's number one. Number 2 is Jalen McMillan for me. Jalen's had a heck of the last month and a half of his rookie year, because you could almost made the argument halfway through the year, maybe even 10 weeks through the year, that he wasn't the player they thought he was going to be. He had like 1 touchdown and maybe 5 or 6 targets through October. Then something happened, obviously. Chris Godwin got hurt. He started to produce a little bit more. I think he had like 15 targets through 2 games, and then he got hurt, and he missed a month. Mm-hmm. And so what we're seeing from Jalen McMillan now, I think materialized over that 2-game stretch, and then being out a month, being able to sit back and watch. And then he got really involved in the vertical passing game. He started making tough contested catches, and now Baker has the trust of him like he is a true number 2 receiver. And it's been awesome to watch him thrive.
Man, on McMillan really quickly, so relieved by the way that he had an ending where, scoring that touchdown after the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, because
it had to go to him.
Man, it had to go to him, because you're watching that on the broadcast, and you're thinking, and you're seeing him apologize to his coaches. You're seeing him apologize to his teammates, and you feel really bad because you know that his intent wasn't there for that penalty.
Right. Exactly right.
But man, to see him catch that ball, that was like the big uplifting moment for the Bucs. Before, that was like almost the appetizer to Mike Evans at the end of the game, which we'll talk about Mike Evans in a second. But
the interesting part of that play, though,
Yeah.
when I watched it on film, as Baker's scrambling out to the right, and he makes a hell of a throw.
One perfect pass.
It might be the best throw of the year this year. I mean, there's been a lot of great throws in the NFL. Hyperbole, right? But it was the best throw I've seen all year. But right as he was scrambling out of the pocket, Mike Evans was standing on the goal line, basically wide open. We could have solved all the one more play. You don't need one more play to get 1,000 yards. It could have happened all right there. Yep. But Jalen McMillan stepped up. I got 2 more rookies for you, man. Because Graham Barton, I think, has been unbelievable this year. And that's no disrespect to Robert Hainsey, who had a bunch of starts over the past couple of years for this team. But he's different. He's bigger, he's faster, he's better in space, and there's something about his attitude. And he's still learning, right? He's still a rookie. He didn't play center in college, But his ability to pick up this game at this level and be as successful as is impressive. The other guy, and it's on the other side of the ball, is Tyke Smith. So he's the nickelback for us. He's been all year. He's kind of a safety by trade, but he's had some big moments. He's a great tackler, which is going to be so important this week with Jayden Daniels and Brian Robinson running in a running game, because he does a little bit of everything. He led our team in interceptions with 2. There's something about him as well. Like, shout out right now is what I'm trying to do to Jason Light, Mike Beal, John Spytek, Rob McCartney, Shane, all the people in the Bucs front office. They have an amazing draft class. Again, it's the year over year picking the right people, and the fact that they're all contributing this year is one of the reasons that they're in the playoffs for the 5th straight year.
It also comes with hitting on your first rounders. And we can't not mention Tristan Wirfs, by the way. We'll hit the applause button again.
Yes.
There's just a lot of applause on this episode because, hey, it's that kind of week on Bucs Bonus. But let me, Tristan Wirfs, first team All-Pro, best left tackle in football. And I believe, shout out Garrett, I believe that Garrett mentioned to me earlier, is the first player in NFL history to win first team All-Pro at both right tackle and left tackle. That's extraordinary. And what an achievement, obviously, for him. The rookies, my goodness, how Todd Bowles has been unapologetic in talking about how much the rookies have been part of the team's success this year. And you talk about Bucky Irving, you talk about Jalen McMillan. Time for me to throw a stat your way, because the offense, to me, is so wildly impressive under Liam Cohen. Bucs, I could not believe this stat when I found it out earlier. Bucs are number 1 in the league, Rondé, on third down efficiency.
Yeah.
More than 50% of their third downs they're converting on.
Yeah, when you getting ready to prepare for a team, obviously I did this for 16 years. You're getting ready to prepare for a team. One of the stats you look at is third down. And you obviously pick out all their plays and everything, but you look at how efficient they are. 51 is off the charts. Off the charts.
I asked Garrett to check it for me. I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
I literally was like, wait a minute, that can't be right.
Right.
But that means that more than half of their third downs, they're finding a way to convert.
Right. And you wonder why. So a lot of this is because, well, I'll tell you why. Most of it is because success of running game on first and second down. If you have a running game that puts you in shorter downs and distance, I mean, Bucs fans know this. You've watched us throw the ball 3 times and go 3 and out, right? You substitute that first throw for a 5-yard run, and then you get a 2-yard run or a 2-yard completion. 3rd and 2 is a lot easier than 3rd and 10, man. And you add in the fact that Baker Mayfield is a great scrambler. He's a guy that gets out of the pocket and always has his eyes downfield, ready to make throws. He's got a ton of talent underneath. I mean, Cade Otton, we said it earlier, Cade Otton was that guy for a lot of our third down completions. And I don't know the numbers on who had the most third down completions on this team, but it had to be either Cade or the running back. And this gives me a chance to talk about Rachaad White, who obviously came into this season being the number 1 running back, but supplanted by Bucky Irving. What he has done well has been a third down kind of all utility type of running back, and they use him as a receiver. He's had a bunch of catches this year. I think he had 6 touchdowns on the year. The guy has been valuable, and all that comes together, and you look at a completion percent, or a conversion percentage of 51 whatever on third down, and it's the reason why you win. It's the reason why you win.
And Baker Mayfield, franchise record 71.5% completion percentage and 106.8 passer rating.
Yeah.
I mean, man, things the train engine is rolling and choo-chooing on under Liam Cohen, and it's been really incredible, of course, to see. Let's get to our third of Rondé's key storylines for the matchup, and yes,
that's a good one to end on, right?
Man, Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore. Let's just start. Before we even talk about the matchup,
right?
What was it like watching his walk-off? It's literally a walk-off completion, by the way, to get Jerry Rice's record.
Right.
Watching the time run out while he's celebrating with fans on the sideline is one of the coolest things I've seen with the Bucs. What was your reaction?
It's a moment that every Bucs fan, I mean, hopefully NFL fans realize the importance of. And I mean, kudos also. You can do applause. Ron DeSantis making, January 10th, Mike Evans Day. That's awesome, right? And he deserves it. He's done something that only one other person in the history of the NFL can say they've done, and that person is the best wide receiver of all time. 11 straight years of 1,000 yards, and he's the only guy to do it in his first 11 years. It becomes an expectation. And think about this, people. Last year, there's a bunch of people saying that Mike Evans might leave. You guys are crazy. Crazy. He was never going to leave. I mean, to get if he would have got that accomplishment at like Houston or anywhere else that people were talking about him going, I think we all collectively would have thrown the Bucs overboard. But I knew he was coming back. There was no way he was leaving. They would move mountains to keep him here, and I'm so glad he was, and we got to see it.
And we got to think he's going to try to break the record, obviously, next year. Man, he's going for it. He's going to get it. Of course. He's going to get it. He's Mike Evans.
He's Mike Evans,
and
man.
Just hope that hammy. Look, if we can spread, some a little bit of like some fairy dust of some kind. Hold on, I have some fairy dust here. A little bit of fairy dust for Mike Evans and his hamstring to hold up in obviously the year to come next season. But yes, Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time.
No love lost. No love lost.
Man.
I don't think I ever was that angry at a person when I played against them. I mean, there were some people I hated.
Oh, come on. Give me one wideout that drove you crazy.
Oh, God. What was the guy?
Come on. One guy that's like, man.
What's the guy in Atlanta?
I got to deal with this guy today.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I know who. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Roddy White?
Roddy White. And he had Harry Douglas, too, as a sidekick. And they were like...
Well, you had to see him a lot.
That's the problem. Because I saw him twice a year. Like, Roddy was... I mean, he was really good. But I remember Roddy when he was... I can't remember who his first quarterback was.
I'll look it up.
But then when Roddy got Michael Vick came in and... Michael Vick was his first quarterback. Right, and then Matt Ryan came in. And all of a sudden, he turned into like a superstar, and there was something about the way that we interacted that we just didn't like each other. And his running mate Harry would always come by and running plays. He would cut your legs out from under you, and I just wanted to kill him. And I think that's probably as close as I never did. Obviously, I never got in a physical confrontation like Mike and Lattimore do every single matchup. That's that to get to that level of contrition over an opponent is crazy, but it makes for great TV. It makes for must-watch TV. I was telling somebody earlier. I was on a radio show with a Washington radio station, and I used to go into every game and do premium matchups. This is the premium matchup. You put it down, you put it number one on your list, you underline it, you circle it, and then you put a highlighter over it, and you say, this is the matchup that you're going to watch. And unfortunately for Bucs fans, if Marshawn Lattimore is healthy, Mike has not had his best games against him, because Lattimore is one of those guys that Joe Witt, the defensive coordinator for Washington, will structure the defense for Lattimore to shadow Mike all day long. Mm-hmm. Now, having his hamstring injury that he's been dealing with for the past 2 weeks, he's only played 2 games since he got traded there. Having that hamstring injury might deter them from doing that, play in and play out. But at some point, that this interaction is gonna come to fruition, and it's gonna be probably pretty. Yeah,
it's crazy. I thought Marshawn Lattimore. It feels like he's been in the league forever.
Yeah,
he's only 28.
I know.
He's not. He's not really that.
No,
He's not Mike's 31. No, look, Mike, we love you, man.
Right.
But he's 3 years younger. But now, so it feels like he's been in the league far longer than him being a 28-year-old player. But yes, it will be interesting to see how his body holds up, because look, when they go at each other, they show it. They do the ISO cam on them a lot on the games.
Should.
And there's a lot of physical bump. Like, what are you thinking about when they are? I mean, they are elbow to elbow. They're bumping each other all game long.
Play goes away. You're expecting like just kind of a down play. You keep running to the ball just in case, but you're really just trying to take a little bit of a break.
They'll take shots at each
they
other.
Just keep going. They just keep going. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen either one of them run like across the field to go take a shot at each other. So I don't know. Maybe they both matured a little bit since the last time they faced each other. But I doubt it.
I just want to follow up on the Roddy White point. So the first couple of seasons for Roddy White, when you of course had to battle against him, it was against Mike Vick.
Yes.
And then they transitioned to Matt Ryan a little bit later on. They had an in between year where Joey Harrington was the quarterback. Yes. And
I think my argument
back
was
in time.
So I think my argument was, and I think if you look at his stats, it'll play out. He needed to get a good quarterback for him to turn into a good player. And I used to always just tell him, I was like, you were nothing before Matt Ryan got here.
Again, if you were mic'd up for some of these games, I'm sure it would have been a good time.
I don't mean that to say he wasn't a damn good player. He was a damn good player, which is probably why I disliked him. It's all good.
So Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore, to finish that point, do you expect Baker to be looking in that direction a little, a lot, all the time, none of the time? And how does that affect Jalen McMillan, Cade Otton, the rest of the offense as a whole, game planning for that matchup? How does it look?
Right. That's probably the best question of the night, because how do you deal with a singular dominant player on the other side of the ball who's trying to take away your best player on your side of the ball? And that what this matchup is. Yes, there is another premium matchup in this game, and it actually is between two rookies. It's Jalen McMillan versus Mike Sanders-Still, who was the second-round draft pick of this Commanders team last year. I believe he's second round. I can look real quick. But he's out of Michigan, won national championship. He's a second-rounder. He was a guy that was going to be a nickelback, right? And this will be a lot be made of this during the broadcast if you're watching it. He was going to be a nickelback. He's going to play my position, right, the inside position. But they've had so many struggles in the secondary, they ended up moving him outside to be an outside corner. He's not a big guy. He's probably my size, actually. And he has had a fantastic year. So in lieu of that, the null and void Lattimore, Mike Evans, if that comes to fruition, the real matchup is going to be, can Jalen McMillan maintain his success that he's had over the past 5 weeks of the season, right? 7 touchdowns, but he's going against a player, another rookie in Mike Sanders-Still, who was really, really good. I know our personnel guys were really hoping that he didn't get selected where he got selected in the draft, because they would have taken him if he would have been on the board when they got there. Now, obviously, some other Bucs rookies actually ended up being pretty good. I mean, our second-round pick was, or actually our third-round pick was Tyke Smith. But I don't know we would have taken him if Sanders still would have been on the board when we selected. So that's probably the key. Need Cade Otton to come in, but Payne Durham's had a great couple of weeks too. He's got 2 touchdowns. You guys were talking about it earlier on a previous show here. So there's options if Lattimore ends up being the Lattimore-Mike Evans confrontation that we expect.
Again, News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. That's where you can watch the game, of course, coming up at 8 o'clock on, of course, Sunday night. We're here with Rondé Barber on Bucs Bonus. Before, of course, we ask for a couple picks from Rondé. We got a caller on the line who wanted to, you might see him on the Jumbotron a few times at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday night. He will be there. He's the one. He's the only. He's Buckified Bird. He called in a short time ago.
Hello, Rondé, JB. Hey, look, I have this thing, Buckified. I was inducted at the Hall of Fame in 2017. I'm a class of 2017, and Rondé, I was there when you got enshrined in 2023. But look, I like to have this Buck talk when I'm talking about the Buccaneers and everything. And I'm a little unorthodox, and I'm talking from a fan perspective. Yeah, I'm passionate about what I do. I like talking my talk, but I like it when I see the players walking the walk. Well, this season, I promised that the Buccaneers will go back to back to back to back, and that's what happened. We won 4 in a row. Now, we're in the postseason, Rodney. Is there something different that you all do as a player that will surprise the opposing team? That if plays that you might run that they have never seen, different blitz packages or something like that. I'll wait and hear what you have to say, because I don't see that the Washington Commanders picking up on everything, because you got it on film what they've done in the past, but it's some surprises going to come out in postseason. It's a different animal in the playoff. I'll wait on you to respond to that, Rondé. This is Buccafied Bird, and I'm out.
Buccafied. I mean,
great by the way,
question.
Great question,
I mean,
Albert. I mean, man, it's amazing.
I love that it took him 5 minutes to get that question out too, because that's just the type of energy you need if you're Buccafied to get a real question out.
Yeah.
You could have just said, "Hey, are we going to be any change ups on defense?" I'll listen. And I saw everybody notice how he qualified that he got to the Hall of Fame before me. I saw that.
He slipped that in there at the beginning and hope you wouldn't remember by the time you answered your question.
I saw that, Buccafied. I don't forget anything, but congratulations that you got in 6 years before me. Oh, no, you're the best, buddy.
Would Todd Bowles have any blitz packages special for Jayden?
100% he will. One thing that I know about Todd, and I've known this about him since he was the defensive coordinator in Arizona under Bruce Arians back in the day, when in lieu of having a great edge rusher, we got some good players on the edge, especially Yaya Diaby. You know, it's nice having Shaq Barrett back, but he hasn't played football all year. Anthony Nelson's had a nice year this year, but we don't have that dominant edge guy that's going to bring consistent pressure. So what his solution is to blitz. I think we're the 6th most blitz heavy team in the league this year, and that's on all downs. You know, you run an odd front. If I can explain this to you real quick, you run an odd front. You have 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. A pressure is considered when 5 guys or more are going at the quarterback. Now, a lot of those times, if only 4 guys run a rush and another guy drops, or a linebacker will rush and a 4-man rush, and that's what you call simulated pressure. It's a catch term this year. Todd does it all. Like, he has so many blitz packages. I would guarantee, and I've seen his playbook a couple of years ago, the volume of plays that he can call is out of this world. So there is for sure a package, whether it's personnel driven or whether it's blitz scheme driven, that the Commanders will not have seen this year. And to be honest with you, JB, we talked earlier about having more speed or needing more speed on defense. Don't be surprised if you see some guys play that haven't played all year just to get some speed on the field, whether it's an extra DB or it's a guy that hasn't played much all year because he can run. I would not be shocked if Todd Bowles does that this week to try to nullify some of the things that the Commanders do well on offense.
You just feel like there might be a trick or two up Todd's
always.
sleeves. Like, now that I have a healthy defense, just wait.
Right.
Just you wait to see what I can pull out of my sleeve. Rondé, it's that time.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking here at the bracket. I love it. This is by the way,
there's nothing better.
This,
I mean, other than the Final Four,
man.
The Sweet 16, those brackets are always good.
I think this is my favorite weekend of football of the year, and it's extra sweeter that the Bucs are in it because I just love Wild Card Weekend. There's just so much intrigue, obviously, and so much shakeup that can happen. Let's just talk about the matchups. Why don't we go through them really quick? You want to give me a quick synopsis and pick one as we go through it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with, or where you want to start?
Let's start in the AFC. Let's get that out of the way so we can finish with the NFC. So real quick in the AFC, Houston, LA Chargers. That game's in LA. Houston is sneaky good, especially on defense. So don't be shocked if Houston.
Everyone's discounting Houston.
I know.
They're
don't be shocked. I'm telling you, don't be shocked. And I love Harbaugh.
Everyone's hard. Well, and also too, the games are going to get impacted by the wildfires in Los Angeles. There's a lot going on with both the LA teams right now between the Rams and Chargers, but that'll be an intriguing matchup for sure.
Absolutely. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. You got to think the presumptive MVP Lamar Jackson finds a way to conquer his playoff demons. He's had a lot of them over the years. Yep. But this is a division matchup, right? It's in the wild card, but it's a division matchup, which always makes things a little more interesting. Right? So I can't pick it. Pittsburgh's getting healthy. Joey Porter Jr., the corner, is going to be back. That game will definitely be tighter than I think some people expect. Zay Flowers, or Pro Bowl wide receiver, out. He's not playing. So that makes a big deal. Obviously, they still have Derrick Henry and Lamar. Buffalo, Denver. Buffalo. I'm just gonna stop there.
Okay.
They're just really.
It's impressive that what Denver's done is impressive, but yeah, no.
Buffalo. Let's go.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the NFC because this is
doing chalk. Well, you just want to. I want to call it like it is. You got chalk right now on the AFC side, so you have all the favorites basically winning. So let's go to NFC.
NFC. All right, LA at Minnesota, Minnesota.
Minnesota at LA.
LA.
And that I think that game has been moved to
Glendale.
That's right.
To Glendale.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
And obviously that creates its own challenges.
No doubt.
But LA, I've watched a lot of them this year. They're a little helter skelter. Minnesota. If I'm can talk, put the horse before the cart before the horse or whatever. If I could put the cart before the horse, Minnesota's my favorite in the NFC.
Period.
Dude, Sam Darnold had a great year.
That game against Detroit didn't scare you away from that.
Didn't scare me. Well, Detroit, I will say this. Jahmyr Gibbs is really,
electric.
Really, really good. And they couldn't find a way to stop him. I don't think that happens again. Brian Flores, a defensive coordinator in Minnesota, is very, very good at scheming up things. And that's why I think that he finds a way to neutralize LA in this first round. Tampa Bay, Washington, going home team.
Yep.
Home team.
Yep.
We beat them once. We beat them again.
Yep.
Best game of the weekend.
No doubt. It's the one outside of the Bucs game I've circled is Packers-Eagles.
Packers at Eagles. I mean,
Amazing.
Holy cow. I mean, the only bad thing about this game is that Christian Watson, Tampa boy, went to Plant High School. Their number one deep receiver, the number one receiver on the Packers, tore his ACL last week. That is so unfortunate because Jordan Love and him had a really good connection. And Packers, I think, are going to struggle against a really good Philadelphia secondary.
You know, they might not have Watson, but that might be the deepest wide receiver core, or one of the widest receiver cores in the league.
But Philly's all defense. Vic Fangio leaving Miami, going to Philly. It changed because Philly's weaknesses last 2 years really have been in the secondary, and they are not their weaknesses anymore. Vic Fangio has been really, really good for this team, and obviously Saquon Barkley is in the MVP conversation. He's just a great player to watch. So that 4:30 game on Sunday is going to be a great appetizer for the Sunday night game that we're all going to be paying attention to. So, all right, quick pick. I already said Minnesota, AFC. I'm going to say Buffalo.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm
not ignoring Kansas City up there. And I'm not ignoring them up there.
I'm speaking for the just general NFL fan out there that there's such disdain for the Chiefs and wanting to see some other team make it to the biggest stage in sports, which is the Super Bowl.
Right.
So the Ravens, the Bills, whoever, just look, the Chiefs are in dynasty territory, obviously, with them, but a little change of scenery is not going to tarnish Patrick Mahomes' legacy.
I don't think we're the only ones throwing hate at the Chiefs.
No, no, there's shows all over the place.
So when they win, hey, we're just trying to looking for some parity. That's all.
Ah, man. So that would be a Bills. You said Vikings.
Yeah.
Bills, Vikings.
Yeah. I mean,
Super
assuming
Bowl.
the Bucs don't go on a run. They might go on a run.
Well, I was talking to our sports department today and Dan Lucas and saying, hey, look, if you circled a dark horse in the NFC, the Bucs are probably the dark horse team, a team that could kind of disrupt things, probably also to the Packers.
Yes.
Packers and the Bucs.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit of a homer there with the Bucs, but the Packers and the Bucs could kind of change the dynamic and maybe squeeze out a win or two and make it pretty deep.
I think so.
Man, I'll tell you what, but I couldn't agree with you more. Beginning at 4, I mean, I'm watching football all weekend.
Oh, my goodness.
But, man.
What else is there to do?
The best thing about it is that the two best games to me are stacked up right back to back. And you get them right there together. Rondé Barber, everybody.
JB.
Man, it's been a pleasure. You are welcome in the Stream Center anytime, my friend.
I think I'll be back. I'm pretty sure I'll be back.
I love it. I love to hear it. Everybody, of course, News Channel 8 is your official Bucs station. And yeah, it's fun to hang out with Rondé Barber. You can find, of course, on WFLA.com, Tampa Bay looking for similar results in the wild card round rematch against Washington. The article by our own Garrett Phillips, our game preview on our website. I'd like to thank Buckified Bert, Garrett Phillips, and the one and only Rondé Barber for coming into the Stream Center. Any final words, Rondé, to wish your Bucs a good luck on Sunday night?
The only thing that matters is winning. I don't care what it looks like. The only thing that matters.
It'll be right here at Raymond James Stadium, folks. 8 o'clock Sunday night. For Rondé Barber, I'm JB Buno. Thanks for joining us on Bucs Bonus. We'll see you next time on WFLA.com.